Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Financial Advisors Want to Know podcast. I'm Catherine Tindall. I'm a CPA here with Dominion. We're a specialty tax and accounting firm for the wealth management industry. And on today's episode, I am so excited to have with me Tyson Ray. He is the author of Total Succession and the host of the Total Succession Show. After nearly 30 years, not quite 30, as he pointed out to me, as a financial advisor, he's now sharing his own succession journey to help other advisors exit their firms with no regrets. So thank you so much for coming on today, Tyson. This is a topic that I cover with so many people so frequently going through succession. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So I think in the pre-show, we already were starting to run away with all the different things that go on and things that we've seen, but you phrased this really nicely of just why succession is the ultimate fiduciary act. And I love the way that you have that, because that word fiduciary is a very loaded word, but it really captures the spirit of a lot of the conversations I have advisors. So when you say that succession is the ultimate fiduciary act, what's kind of the backdrop for why that is, and how you came to that conclusion through your own experience, if you want to start with that?
Yeah, so what it is the belief that you can leave your clients better off, or that it's in their best interest that you are now transitioning out or transitioning away from certain roles. Succession doesn't necessarily need to mean you've left the business. It means you have a plan when you're no longer in the business. But I think clients deserve to know, are you retiring in their retirement? Are they going to be turned over to somebody else? And who is that person? And it's okay if you don't know who that person is. You can even say, I'm looking for who that person is, or a company of people. But the older you get, the more the client on the other side's thinking it, whether you breach it or not. And I think it's part of the planning process is to plan when you're not going to be there anymore.
Yep.
As far as my own journey, I think it's partially that I started in the business and I apprenticed underneath a gentleman who had been in the business for 40 years. This is 1998, back when we were still the only places you could get a stock quote, right? And he retired at the end of 2002 because 2002, I get 22, 2002. It was 2002. After this, everything burst. He turned 72. It wasn't fun anymore because people didn't want to pay commissions, and the internet made things all go faster. And so I took this whole thing over, but had the ability to be working alongside him for several years. So they were ready for that transition. And then subsequently, I have been through seven. So he was first, six other advisors I've transitioned into retirement. Everything from they pre-announced it to literally they got like the divorce letter, like I'm gone, I've turned it over to them, and having to sit down with clients and work through those scenarios and those feelings and those emotions and those regrets, or just like deer in headlights, like, wait a second, the person I just trusted is not there anymore, is something that we don't want to have clients have to go through. If we can put a succession plan in place to understand what those transitions are and how to build out a firm or the next generation, or how to help educate advisors what other firms can do for them if they don't build that out themselves, so that the clients can be better off, be left better off, the mistake advisors are going to make in succession is they're going to take a check. They're going to monetize their practice, however they do that, or their estate is. Okay, so you're going to stay there forever. But you're going to, if you exit and you take this check, you're going to be interacting with your clients that are friends. You're going to see them at the country club. You're going to see them at church. You're going to see them at social outings. They're family members, for crying out loud. And they're going to tell you what your success was in your business about 5 to 10 years after you're not there anymore. And that's where your regret's going to come from. Did you leave them better off? And I think everything with succession needs to be viewed through that lens, because currently there's the lens is, how much can I get? PE's involved. The multiples are through the roof. And I sat down with an advisor a while ago that he transitioned his practice. He got the number he wanted, but he was sitting down after the fact telling me, in his 60s, he's got this stress on him that he hasn't had in decades, which is he's got to earn these growth multiples to get the number he wanted. And now he's got to, he's conflicted, right? All of a sudden, just do the right thing, pay off the mortgage, buy the car. No, wait, time out. I got to grow the revenues. Well, wait a minute. Like, you got to think about these things as you're going through succession, because the urgent can crowd out the important. You can get googly eyed over numbers and not see the details of how those numbers are being offered to you. And there's a lot of activity playing itself out in the marketplace in this regard. So it's why we wrote the book. It's basically like I wanted to write Survivor's Guide to Succession, but total succession is taking in the total understanding of what it is for you to leave from the client vantage point, from your vantage point, from your team's vantage point, how you can be monetized and yet still keep your client's interests first.
Yeah. And I think when I have these conversations with, clients of ours who are running firms, and, I even have the first question of them, do you have a contingency plan in place? Like, you get hit by a bus tomorrow, what happens to the firm? And even just a lot of those backstops, it's, oh, I don't know. I don't know what would happen, what would happen there, versus, okay, that you're on a limited time horizon. Like, we're human beings, like, we're on a clock. What's gonna be 10 years, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? What happens to this, this business? Because you've got, like you said, are you going to retire in the middle of your client's retirement? And like, what's going to happen with it? I think too, I see a lot of advisors when it comes to the succession planning, a lot of the hesitation that I feel from them is it because it's such a big issue. It's such an elephant of an issue. A lot of times it's really hard for them to pull it apart into, okay, well, where do I start with this? And I've got so many immediate needs. And also it's because it's such an out of their realm issue. I find a lot of the times, when you have somebody who's running a business, it's, oh, I'm going to focus on some of this routine work or some of this client work where it's very known. Like, I start from this, I get my task list done, right? Having to plan for succession is not going to be like that experience, because you're having to make a lot of future decisions now, and also really having to work through a lot of like kind of core and almost fuzzy feeling things too, especially if you've got like second generation advisors in the practice who you're trying to transition it to, or say you've got like a family, like a child that's working for you in the business who's going to be taking it over. It's like, well, when are we actually going to do this, and how is it going to work? And then we don't even get started with all the tax components that kick in of, okay, the attorneys and the accountants and just all the filings and all that kind of stuff. But where do you recommend people start with, the elephant of this issue for them to, start to pick it apart? Just a slight interruption in this conversation. I wanted to bring to your attention two things that are important for you to know. So we're always at the mercy of social media algorithms. So if you can subscribe to the show, that would mean a lot to me. Even more to me if you can leave a rating and let me know what you think about it. But we have a new newsletter that's coming out. It's going to be very active in 2025. That is specifically around tax issues that I'm seeing advisors face in their own practices, changes in legislations, and the pieces that I think are critically important for you to stay ahead of as an advisor with the new administration. So nearby, wherever you're interacting with this, will be the link of how to sign up for our newsletter. Also nearby will be the link to my LinkedIn, which is the best way to get in touch with me, learn more about what we're doing for advisors in the tax strategy and compliance work that we do, and also to get access to the various tools and interviews and things that I do, specifically designed to help you improve your practice, improve your own tax situation, etc. So let's get back to the episode, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, so we created so in the second section, the book is 3 sections. It's what's the problem, which is a lot of everyone's leaving their practice. You're going to exit. You're either dying or you're choosing. And the second part of the book goes into an acronym we came up with that's called SPACE, which is partially the problem, right? The urgent crowds out the important. So you're not making the space in your schedule. You're not making the space in your mind, much less to even think through this.
Yeah.
But the acronym is as follows. The S is, do you see it? What is your future in financial services 10, 15, 20, the rest of your life? Are you staying in the business or are you getting out? And if you're staying in the business, have you told those that you love that you're never getting out? Because they might have been coming along for a ride expecting at some point you're going to do something
Yeah.
different. Because this
Yeah.
business can consume us, right? I mean, you can love solving other people's problems, but don't necessarily have to solve your own. And you don't have anything left in the tank when you leave the office because you gave it away. And you feel good about that because there's a lot of ego in this whole succession process, by the way. That's a whole nother topic. Space. Do you see what you're going to do? What is that? Where do you see yourself if you weren't doing, if you disabled tomorrow, can't work? What would you do? If you chose to leave, what would you do? What do you see? In seeing that, if you can visualize it, and more importantly, if you can tell somebody else, preferably those that you love, maybe one or two people on your team, this is what I'm seeing. Okay, now get some help. What do you need to prepare for to make that happen? What's the list? Just vomit it out on a piece of paper, get some insight, ponder that, create space again to think about what do I got to do differently? What documents, tax planning, legal planning, team transitioning clients. What was that look? Who's going to manage things? Who's going to do the portfolio stuff? Who's going to do compliance? Like what has to be prepared? A is then what, okay, of that list, who's got to act on it? Is it you? Is it somebody else? What's the priority of it? Going back to what you see of what this future looks like, that also it's what do you then need to commit to? That's the C, and so the S is you see it, and then the C, letter C in space is now what do I have to commit to? And a lot of it is what do you have to commit to letting go of? What do you got to commit to stop doing? What do you need to what do you need to let other people fail at so they can succeed? Because you've been saving them, or you prevent them from even making an error, so therefore your hands are in everything.
Yeah.
And lastly, it's exit. And the problem with succession planning and the problem with the word exit planning, it feels like it's an end. But if we go back to what you saw, it's a beginning. It's new. You're walking out into something else. It can be a positive thing because you put a plan in place and you can try and do it on your terms. And the mistake advisors are making is they're not allowing themselves to think my life could be better if I was doing something else. What would that be? I've worked my whole life taking care of other people. Now can I take care of my family and my friends? And can I go enjoy some things in life? Do I have a different calling or a different purpose? Have you ever given yourself the space to even think that's possible?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's just a wonderful framework. I think from a couple of experiences that I've had recently in, specifically with that last point with the exit, I had a conversation earlier today with an advisor who's, working through succession plans for his own practice. And, I'm going to be, I'm going to be 65 in X number of years and I want to, be out the door. And having that conversation with him of, well, is that what you actually want? Because when I ask you about the practice and ask you about what you're working on, it's obvious to me that you really love it. It's probably just too much. And then one of the things that I tend to look at too with people is, and we do this for tax purposes, but it's actually a really good operational exercise, is I have them do a time study where it's what are you spending your time on in the practice, because it's part of how we determine like their compensation as as an owner, but it's also helps me to reflect back onto them of, you say that you're working full time and you're spending most of your time client facing still, like what's the plan to get some of this off of your plate? Or, if you're saying that you're burnt out, there's only so many levers that we can pull, right? It's you either need to reduce the overall work volume or you need to transition it onto another person on your team. There's really only two options there, but you have to make a decision and then decide, what you want. And especially with those succession planning engagements of, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. I think that's another, myth that I encounter a lot is, oh, well, once I sell this, then I'm out, I'm done. I'm not ready to be done. So I'm going to be working full time, until that's like, no, you can structure this so that you've got a succession plan in place. You're starting to exit, you're decreasing your time involvement in the practice, and even you can change your equity over and you can still, I'm going to do a 1099 or a W-2 consulting engagement with my successor because I want to keep, X clients that I love and, I'm not ready to say goodbye to. Even though I don't want to be working 40-hour weeks anymore. It's like, there's ways to get that done. So I guess in more of some of the details of what you've seen, like from your experience doing this with other advisors, what are some of those myths that you've encountered kind of in those different components of, the acronym space
Yep.
that kind of hold people back of just, it's like I forget the psychological term of it. It's like a cognitive bias. It's like, this isn't a real issue. Like, this isn't a real obstacle. There's ways to get around this. What are some of the ones that you've seen kind of working, through that progression?
Well, I think one of them is a myth that they have time.
Yeah.
One of them is that they're going to get to it. And the reality
Yep.
is that if you're listening to this and you're exhausted and you're burned out and you're tired, it's because you've been so successful, and in your success, you've created complexity that you're not wired to solve. And to hire the Gen 2 or to hire the team that's going to take it from you, if you're burned out and you're already overwhelmed, you're not wired to then necessarily mentor or take the time to answer the question. You're just going to do it yourself, which is why you probably tried this a couple of times and it didn't work. Then you're saying, well, I can't hire this person because it doesn't work. And what you need to realize is that there are other teams out there that basically can help you take over the stuff you don't like, where you can still focus on the clients, or you can downsize. I've had other advisors where they've sold parts of their practice off. Maybe they sold all their clients that are out of state that are never coming to the office anyway. Again, there's different, the other myth is, it's all or nothing. You have to exit completely. You have to solve this right now, instead of you get to grow into what you saw, right? That goes back to how much time you have. And at the same time, I have a friend that, nope, I'm going to die at my desk. I'm going to do this. I can do this forever. My first partner.
I hear that a lot.
He was 70. It's like, you can do this for a long time. However, that same guy who probably 2 years ago told me, nope, I'm going to do this for decades, held his grandson a year later. It's like, I'm done. I'm done. I want out. And it's just like, you don't know what you don't know. And the reason we wrote the book, the reason you have your podcast, the reason we do this is to try and help educate people as to what's possible and to get out of their siloed thinking. Because the other myth is you're going to solve this yourself. And my response to that is, if you were going to solve this yourself because you are an entrepreneur, you would have done it already.
Yeah. True.
And because you haven't, probably means it ain't you. You might need some help. You might need to get some information. You might need to get some encouragement. You might need to make it somebody else's project to get completed. And they got to suck the information out of you of what do you want, and what do your loved ones want? What does your team want? What do the clients want?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for advisors who are interested in getting in your world, what are the best places for them to interact with you, Tyson, to find out more about the stuff that you're doing with the, succession planning and the new book?
Yeah. So they laughed at me when I'm like, I'm going to write another book for financial advisors with no reason to make money on it. I guess there'll be some of the, book sales, but that's not necessary. The point is that we learn some things that I'm a student teacher, and I like to take what I've learned, simplify it down, and try and help other people learn it. And so it is the book, it is the podcast. And at the same time, for 27 years, I will spend about 90 minutes with anybody that wants to spend 90 minutes to try and help guide them or help point them in directions of the resources that we've learned, that there are coaching and consultants and different experts out there in the world of succession planning to connect you, to help solve what did you see and how you're going to prepare and get it done. And so, it's basically LinkedIn, grab the book, and reach out if we can try and help point you in the direction of, because the other myth is there's a one size fits all to this. Your succession plans, like your fingerprint, it is going to be unique to you. It's going to be unique to your team, your clients. It's going to be very unique to what do you want. And then it's going to be very unique to what did you build and how's that different from what you want. And I think some people just need to vent. Some people just need to be asked. I've always believed that for financial advice in planning, in any capacity, the planner, me, you, even financial planners, they don't have the answers. They have the questions. The answers are in the person themselves. And so if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out your succession, it's who can ask you the questions to get your answer to succession planning. And if we can help do that, we're happy to try. And there are other experts we can point you to. And an exit team is going to need to be a planner, an attorney, an accountant, and a buyer. And so there's multiple people that need to be involved in this, but it needs to start with some questions, and you have the answers. It's just taking the time to get the questions and letting you think, what are your answers to this solution of succession?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those of you listening, we're going to post below a link to Tyson's show, a link to the book, and a link to his LinkedIn. I encourage you to send him a message and see, you know, and then the same thing for us too. If you're particularly dealing with succession issues in your firm, you can send me a LinkedIn message too, because it's an issue that I encounter a lot, and we have kind of a similar feedback of just, you know, where are you in the process? How does it tie in with everything else that's going on in the practice, and figuring out the next best steps. But any final thoughts, Tyson, before we sign off for this episode?
Yeah, I think my final thought is that I love your show. You know, financial advisors want to know. And what I want to challenge you that's listening to this is, it's accept the fact that you may not know what you don't know, that you need to know. And that's what the book was written for. And that's what there's a lot of people out there trying to help you. And sometimes it's just raising your hand saying, I need some help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And for those of you listening, we'll post those resources nearby. I'd love to hear your feedback too. So feel welcome to send me a message. I'd be interested to hear what you thought about the episode, and what you'd be interested in hearing more about when it comes to issues around succession or exit planning or things like that, for us to focus future episodes. So thanks again. And this was another episode of the Financial Advisors Want to Know podcast.